It is just after 8 in the morning in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, and there is something standing on the patio. Somebody on that street sees it first and calls the police. The woman who lives in the house sees it too, through her own glass door, and later she will describe that moment in the plainest words a person has available. She had no idea what she was looking at. She only knew that it was not normal. She knows what belongs in this yard: squirrels, rabbits, a neighbor's dog that gets out sometimes. This is none of those things. It is built like a cat, but every proportion is wrong. The legs are too long for the body. The coat is the color of dry sand, and at the tip of each ear there are 2 black tufts standing straight up, sharp and deliberate, like something drawn rather than born. 30 miles northwest of Chicago, on an ordinary suburban street with a golf course at the end of it, a woman is looking at an animal she cannot name. By the time officers arrive, it is gone, not off the property, under it. It has gone beneath the wooden deck at the back of the house, into the dark, and it will not come out. What follows takes most of the morning. Officers surround the home. They bring a tranquilizer rifle. The dose they use is not strong enough to put the animal down, and it stays awake and aware through the entire operation. It does not go groggy until it has already been inside the cage for 7 or 8 minutes. It takes 6 officers to handle that cage. The people who watched it happen said the same thing in different words. It came out fighting. Nothing about it behaved like an animal that had ever lived inside a house. And here's the part that should bother you. The question was never really what it was. Put trained people in front of it, and they will have a species name inside an hour. That is not the mystery. The mystery is how it came to be standing on a patio in suburban Illinois at 8 in the morning. And on that question, the official position of the police department was that they did not know. It had not escaped from a zoo. No zoo reported one missing. No owner came forward. No report was ever filed anywhere in the state. It had already been loose for 4 days. It was first seen the previous Friday, moving through yards near the golf course, while nobody on that street had any idea what was walking past their windows at night. It was a caracal, a wild cat native to Africa and parts of Asia, a protected species across most of its range, and one that's almost never seen anywhere in the United States. 20 to 40 pounds of muscle built around a single specialty. It can leap 12 feet straight up and take a bird out of the air. On open ground, it runs at 50 miles an hour. That is what had been moving through those backyards after dark, and it was not the first time this had happened in America. 3 years earlier, in Royal Oak, Michigan, a man named Nicholas Bockel woke up to the news that a large cat was loose in his neighborhood. His reaction was not curiosity. It was fear, and it arrived attached to a very ordinary question. There was a giant cat somewhere on his street, and he did not know what he was supposed to do about it. Was it safe to send the kids to school? When police discussed that case, they said something that quietly reframes this entire story. It was at least the 3rd time these cats had escaped in that area, which means somebody nearby owned them, and owned them legally. Under Michigan's Carnivore Act, these animals can be kept as pets. The owner in Royal Oak had 4 of them. She had given them all names. She told reporters there had never been a single incident in 5 years, and she showed them the enclosures she kept them in. Something still got out, 3 separate times. Back in Illinois, the animal from under the deck was loaded into a truck and driven north. It went to a sanctuary in Sharon, Wisconsin, a place that takes in exotic animals that have been abandoned or injured or abused. A representative from that sanctuary drove more than an hour to collect it. The staff there gave it a name, Kaboki. And when she finally got a proper look at the animal, she said the thing that closes the case. It was young, 8 months to a year old, no more. An animal that age did not cross an ocean, and it did not wander in from anywhere. It was born in captivity. It belonged to somebody, and somebody let it go. So how does a person in Illinois end up owning one in the first place? Easily, as it turns out. At the time that cat was captured, owning a caracal was not illegal in Illinois. A bill sat in the state legislature that would have changed that. It had not passed. Across the border in Michigan, it was legal outright. The price for one runs somewhere between $1,000 and $6,000. An animal welfare advocate who followed the Illinois case believed that cat had been bought on the black market and then dumped when it stopped being manageable. The woman from the sanctuary explained exactly why that happens, and it is worth sitting with. These are not pets. They can kill a small child. They will kill your cats, and they will kill your dogs. And as they grow, if they turn aggressive, the people who bought them cannot handle them anymore. so they get rid of them. There is no registry. No one is required to record where these animals go or how many are sitting in American basements and garages and backyard enclosures at this moment, which means nobody can tell you how many are out there, and nobody can tell you how many have already gotten loose. Now think about what that actually looks like from the outside. It is dusk. Something crosses the road ahead of you. Tan. Long-legged. Bigger than a house cat. Gone in under 2 seconds. You're not going to say the word caracal. Almost no one in this country would. You're going to say bobcat, because that is the nearest thing your brain has on file, and bobcats have tufted ears too. Or you will say mountain lion, because the animal looked larger than it should have, and that is the name that comes attached to the feeling. This country has decades of big cat sightings that were never resolved, reports filed, and photographs argued over, and nothing ever confirmed. This is not the explanation for those sightings. It would be dishonest to tell you that it is. But it does leave something uncomfortable behind. There is now a documented and repeating mechanism by which a wild exotic predator can end up walking through an American neighborhood with nobody able to explain how it got there. And when that happens, the people who see it do not report what it was. They report what it reminded them of. Before this goes any further, let us be honest about what this is not. Caracals are not establishing themselves in America. There is no breeding population out there. Every case we have looked at is an escape, not a colonization. They are not typically seen in this country at all. What happened in Hoffman Estates made the national news precisely because it almost never happens. And there is no record of a caracal killing a person in the United States. The danger is real, but it is a danger to pets, to livestock, and to small children. This is not a man-eater, and nobody should sell it to you as one. So the invasion story is wrong. Which leaves a much better question. If every one of these animals is an escaped pet, then who keeps buying them? And what happens when the demand for them grows faster than the law is willing to allow? The answer is that somebody built a legal version. Moscow Zoo, 1998. A domestic house cat gets into the enclosure of a male caracal and the two animals mate. Nobody planned it. It was an accident, and it was written up at the time in a German zoological journal as exactly that, a curiosity. The kitten that came out of it had tufted ears. That was all it took. Word moved through the world of specialist cat breeders, and what had been an accident in a Russian zoo turned into an objective. In the early 2000s, an American breeder paired a male caracal with Abyssinian females and produced the first successful intentional crossing in the United States. Others followed, in Ukraine and then in Russia, where the largest breeding programs still operate today. The hybrid has a name. It is called a caracat. The International Cat Association granted it experimental breed status, and the appeal has never been hidden. It is stated openly by the people who sell them. What a caracat offers a buyer is the illusion of owning a wild caracal without legally owning a wild animal. That is the entire product. There are roughly 200 of them in the world. They sell for 5 figures. Here is what that illusion actually weighs. A first-generation caracat comes in between 25 and 30 pounds. For comparison, the largest recognized domestic cat breed in the world is the Maine Coon, and a Maine Coon tops out at around 18. They do not meow, they screech. Their play is rough enough that breeders themselves warn it is dangerous around small children and around the elderly. They are banned or restricted across many American states, and there have been organized petitions calling for the breed to be stopped altogether. This is an animal that was designed deliberately to sit as close to a wild predator as the law would tolerate, and then sold into living rooms. And again, the honest limits. 200 animals is not a population. There is no wild caracat problem in America, and there is no evidence of any breeding out there. The wildness also fades. With every successive generation, the size drops and the ear tufts shrink, because that is what the breeders are selecting for. By the 4th or 5th generation, you are looking at something far closer to a large house cat than to anything from Africa. So nothing is spreading, nothing is loose. On the numbers, this is a small and strange corner of the exotic pet trade. That is the reassuring version, and it is true. But look at what the two halves of this story become when you set them side by side. The animal under that deck in Illinois was the old problem. A wild creature bought by somebody who should never have had it and dumped the moment it stopped being fun. That version has an ending. It has a species name and a sanctuary in a van from Wisconsin that drives an hour to come and get it. The other version has none of that. It is legal. It is bred on purpose. It grows heavier than any domestic cat on earth, and it is sold into houses by people who advertise its wildness as the reason to buy it. And there is no registry, no requirement, and no record of where a single one of them ends up. The cat under that deck was found because a woman looked out of her window and knew instantly, without knowing anything else, that she was seeing something that did not belong. That is the part we are quietly engineering away.